Mahalo everyone, and welcome to the last deck video of 2021 here on the Jolly Scarecrows channel. And to celebrate the coming new year, where people might be going outside wishing upon a shooting star, I thought I would make a Starry Night, Starry Dragon deck. It's a really interesting kind of deck type. Essentially, it revolves around playing this dragon from your hand and popping a card and then returning it to the hand. So it's kind of a shooting star almost effect. And we're getting two decks out for you around this archetype. This is almost more of a pure build. There are bits of it that aren't really that pure. You can play it kind of essentially as a rank 4 Xyz deck. This is a little bit of spice added to it, which we'll get into, but in the main it's a kind of a go first negate deck. Even though negates are actually just kind of popping your opponent's cards and reacting to what they do. So the kind of, I guess the basis of the deck is, as you see, the Starry Night Dragon. So when it's normal special summon from the hand, target card on the field and destroy it. It has some anti-dark stuff, but honestly, well, depending on what you play, that doesn't come up that often, and if it attacks opponent's monster, you can attack again. So decent card, but nothing groundbreaking. Really, what you want to be doing is keep on popping with it. The way you do that is, well, often with this card, Starry Night Arrival. So this once per turn during the main phase, so either yours or your opponent's, you can either bring the dragon from your field to your hand or special summon it. And you can only use one of those per turn, which can hinder it a little. But you also have Starry Night Ceremony. So then, if your opponent activates a card or effect, you get to special summon a level 7 light dragon from your hand. So during their main phase, you can do something, bring it back, use the ceremony when they've activated an effect, play it again, and you get a pop-off. Balefire is your searcher. Any Starry Night monster or the dragon can be added to the hand with this card, so you're kind of always wanting to be using this, and if your opponent happens to control the dark, bang, you can go straight away with the special summon. We're only running kind of 3 of the kind of 4-star Starry Night, so we're running 3 copies of Rail, which when it's normal summoned lets you add a spell trap to your hand, so you can either add the Searcher, or you can directly add something like a Rival if you've already got the Starry Dragon in your hand. We're running 3 copies of Orbiteal. I'm potentially considering lowering this down to 1, but it is always a really nice card, and this kind of sets up your recursion of resources. So if a Starry Dragon comes back up to your hand from the field, you can special summon it from the graveyard, and then it has a quick effect of targeting a light monster you control, tributing it, and then you can get a spell or trap Starry Night card directly to your field. And so between these two, you can see how you build up resources until your opponent has no answer. Obviously, because we're running a lot of these 4-star fairy lights, we're running 3 copies of Ties to the Brethren. So this lets you pay 2,000 life points. So if you've got a Rail or an Orbiteal on the field, pay 2,000 and you can special summon 2 monsters which are the same. Often you might go into Flamel. Flamel is nice. Basically, when you get it on the field, you can banish it to return Starry Night Starry Dragon from your graveyard, or if you control it to your hand. So this is again another effect where you can bring it to your hand and then use the Arrival to special summon it and get the pop. It has then another kind of effect that if it's in your hand, your opponent declares an attack, you can special summon it straight away. So often you can use things like Balefire to have both this and the dragon in your hand, and then bang bang, and then you're in with a pop. The other option, which I'm sure you've seen, Barry Sledge to the Heavens. This is very much a go first deck, so depending on what you play, of course, you can really start disrupting your opponent off the bat with this straight away with Ties to the Brethren. Now, the other cards do, well, there are a whole bunch of interesting things that are going on. So I think I will probably start with the Diviner of the Herald. If you played Heralds or Trident, whatever it is, that you've probably seen this card before. Essentially, when it's normal special summon, send a fairy monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, and then you can increase this card's level. So you can go into like synchros fairly easily. one of the ones you'd be wanting to do is this Trias Hierarchia. Now, when this is in your hand or graveyard, you can tribute fairy monsters on the field and special summon it. And you get effects. If you do 2, you can destroy fairy controls. 3, you get to draw 2, so you can make up the resources. Honestly, often you'll be just doing the 1. And the reason you'll be doing the 1 is because you will be using Diviner of the Herald, sending this, tributing just the Diviner of the Herald to bring this out, and Diviner of the Herald's second effect goes into play, so when it's tributed, special summon the level 2 or lower fairy monster from your hand or deck, and then you get a choice. You get to pick between either, which, as we know, brilliant card, when it sits to the graveyard, you can banish some fairies to recurse 2 more, and obviously we're running things like Herald of Orange Light in here for you to grab and negate your opponent's effects. Or Valkyrie Sesht. And when Sesht is special summoned, you get to special summon a Valkyrie from the deck, like Sigrun. Now you have Sigrun and Trias Hierarchia in the field, 2 level 9s, you can go into some rank 9 XEs off the bat. So we're running 4. Sacred Tree Hyperitron is probably the best one for your opening play. Basically, you can detach 1 card per turn and negate an effect of the card of the detached type. Plus, during your turn, when you use a card, you can target a card of the type that you used and attach it. It is a bit convoluted, but we are running spells and traps, and obviously monster effects, but you'll already have 2 on it that you play all the time. Things like 3 Artifact Sanctum, for example. So you can, I mean, this isn't one you'd ideally want to play in your turn, but you can play it, bring out one of your artifacts, and then if your opponent's playing a trap-heavy deck, whack straight in. If they've got Imperial Order or something, I don't know, something disruptive, then you're straight away on the board with that. Often you'll be grabbing a spell like Ties the Brotherhood or Balefire, playing that, attaching it, and then you can disrupt one of your opponent's spells or monster effects during their turn. 9 Lives Cat is interesting, so essentially you can detach your material and special summon back either the Sigrun or the Hierarchia from the graveyard, and they can't be targeted, and you can then obviously use it to next turn make another level 9, or you can special summon a monster from the opponent's graveyard, and that can't be targeted either. So depending on your game state, you can often do that. Well, I'm going to bring back your creature, whatever it may be, and now you can't target it, and you know how devastating that could be. The last level 9 is this Gene Raider, Jormungandr, and this essentially just builds up attack. Your opponent gradually picks off cards. I mean, this would be a perfect one to actually summon off your opponent with 9 lives cap. But anyway, yeah, good card. Once per turn, you can detach a card, and then each player draws 1, and then any card from the hand or on the field mandatorily goes to this. Obviously, then boosting its attack means that you can use its effect on its next turn. So there's a bunch of different options for going into that rank 9, which you can do in your first turn. Remember, that was all just from playing the 1 copy of Diviner of the Herald. We also have this thing in here, Bahal Luit, the Grand Radiance. So, level 7 Light Dragon. So you can search it with Starry Night Balefire, and it has this effect of you can basically tribute summon it with just any old effect monster. But then if you're during your opponent's turn, if they're adding cards from the deck to the hand, and this is, I don't know, it's tricky to use it right, but when you can, it's really funny. You get to immediately tribute summon it by getting rid of one of your event monsters. And then you can, or obviously, from Starry Night Arrival, that can work too. So your opponent banishes cards equivalent to their hand face down. They put their hand back into their deck, and then they add whatever cards they banished back to the hand. So I guess it's more like a different version of Trickstar Reincarnation. except for everything goes back into the deck. And obviously if they've been accruing cards, maybe into their hand, if they've been accruing combo pieces, this can provide a nice kind of disrupt. And sometimes, obviously, if you've got Starry Night Arrival, you know, that can be kind of a free thing. What haven't I explained yet? So we're running 2 artifacts here, we're running 3 Sanctum. Ideally I'd like to have Trap Trick. We're obviously running quite a few face downs that your opponent's going to be wanting to destroy, so having these is really nice. And obviously this deck is predominantly about disrupting your opponent on their turn, so Scythe and Maratek fit in very well. Yes, I think that is everything from this deck. Oh yes, I haven't really explained much about the extra, my mistake. So we're running Bryonic because quite often you could send maybe one of these Heralds to the grave with Diviner of the Herald. You're quite often in a situation where you have a 6-star on the field and you can make synchro, so Bryonic's really nice for that. Alternatively, if you send if you can get this Diviner of the Herald, if you send Trias, you immediately have a level 11 synchro. So either is often a monster you're going to be wanting to have out, or a spare Valkyrie Sexter, so you can have a level 11, a level 1, and you can make a nonsense Geomathnic Final Sigma. Obviously we're running a couple of XEs, we're running a few 4-stars here, so we're running the Constellar Omega and Ptolemy. Again, this has a nice effect to be able to return targets to your hand. You can often use it in much better situations than you're in Starry Night, Starry Dragon, but you know, you can use that. Gagaga Magician, we're running that and the F-Zeros, because often you might get out a bunch of these 4-stars, or you might get out the level 9s, and yeah, I mean, Utopic Draco Future is an incredibly strong card in terms of negating your opponent's monster effects as well. Link Revo, big card in this deck, linking off the Eva if you get it, and that lets you hopefully search for things like Diviner of the Herald. I mean, Eva is probably one of the best cards in the deck. And then Artifact Dagda, just in case. There are some situations where you'd be wanting to set out if you really need to disrupt your opponent's next turn special summon or whatever, and then Dagda's pretty nice. You know, bring out just 2 monsters with different names, and that can sometimes happen anyway. And it's a light fairy, so it goes with everything else. You know, use that, bring out Sanctum, or set Sanctum, sorry, play Sanctum, bring out Scythe, and your opponent can't special summon next monsters from the extra deck. And yeah, from then you can take control on the next turn. Right, that's all for this deck. Join us in 2022 for the 2nd edition of the Starry Night, Starry Dragon deck series here on the Jolly Scarecrows channel. Have a good new year.